I'm Rachel Morrison, 37 years old. 2 decades back, my parents labeled me worthless and discarded me at 17 while carrying my child. Now they appeared at Riverside General Hospital's grand entrance, insisting on meeting their grandson, the head of neurosurgery they'd spotted on television. My mother gripped her designer handbag defensively while my father glanced at his expensive watch, both dressed immaculately to meet the son of the daughter they'd deleted from their lives. They were unaware of what awaited them in the final wishes of the woman who rescued me when they refused. Let me return to that November evening in 2004. I stood in their living room, the one featuring imported French tiles and a fixture costing more than average salaries, clutching a positive pregnancy result with shaking hands. "You're making this up," my mother stated coldly, her tone cutting as ice. "No child of mine would behave so cheaply." Additional tests proved otherwise. My father remained silent. Raising his voice would be undignified. He walked deliberately to my bedroom and returned carrying my luggage, purchased supposedly for university visits. He positioned it near the entrance with mechanical precision. "You have 15 minutes, he declared, touching his Princeton class ring. "Take what you can carry. Leave your house keys here." "Father, I'm begging. You're no longer our child." He turned the family photograph on the shelf downward, the one showing us in coordinated outfits and manufactured smiles. "Our daughter wouldn't ruin herself with some boy and demolish everything we've established." My mother stood near the antique clock, inspecting her nails. "Don't contact us. Don't return. We'll inform everyone you're studying overseas." Jason, the boy who'd sworn eternal devotion, had already secured admission to Princeton. His family retained attorneys. His prospects mattered, mine didn't. Our child's didn't. He'd blocked all communication the moment I shared the news. 15 minutes. That's the time they allocated for me to gather 17 years of being their child. I grabbed clothing, my grandmother's locket they'd overlooked, and the $312 from my drawer. The door locked behind me with the finality of a verdict. I spent that night in Oakwood Park beneath the pavilion where Jason first kissed me. 4 nights afterward, someone gently touched my shoulder. Not law enforcement or predators, but a 70-something woman wearing expensive wool and genuine compassion. "Child, you'll die of exposure here." Catherine Bennett had been walking her elderly terrier at sunrise, a habit maintained since her husband's passing. She discovered me curled on that bench using my suitcase as a pillow, and something within her shattered. Or perhaps mended. "I'm managing," I lied through chattering teeth. "No, you're not." She examined my face, then my stomach. Even at barely 8 weeks, she recognized the signs. When I began weeping, truly weeping, not the silent tears I'd conserved for 4 days, she sat directly on that frozen bench and embraced me as though I mattered. "Come," she finally said. "Duke and I need breakfast company." Her vehicle smelled of roses and fine leather. The heated seats felt divine. She drove us to Westwood, to a residence sprawling across property the size of a park. 9 bedrooms for 1 widow and 1 aging terrier. "I lost my daughter," she stated simply while leading me inside. "Vehicle collision 6 years back. She was expecting too." The room, she revealed, had been waiting. Not specifically for me but for someone. A nursery set sat assembled in the corner. The wardrobe contained maternity wear still tagged. "This belongs to you now," she said. "No interrogations, no strings. Everyone deserves another opportunity." "Why?" I whispered. She touched a photograph on the dresser, a young woman sharing Catherine's features and expression. "Because Emma would have wished it." That night, I slept in an actual bed for the first time in 96 hours. Duke settled at my feet like a protector. Catherine didn't merely provide shelter, she provided a future. While my parents informed their exclusive club friends I was studying in France, I was learning to breathe again in a nursery decorated with moons. Marcus arrived during a January snowstorm, crying and flawless. Catherine held my hand through 20 hours of labor, murmuring encouragement when my strength failed. She severed the cord when I requested. She was first to hold him after me. "He's exceptional," she proclaimed, though he was merely minutes old. "I can tell from his eyes." She proved correct. Marcus walked at 10 months, read at 3, and qualified for advanced programs before kindergarten. While I completed night classes for my diploma, then online college courses, he absorbed information like other children absorbed cartoons. Catherine owned 4 restaurants: Bennett's downtown, the Garden Room on 6th, the Corner Cafe near campus, and Riverside Bistro. She started me as a greeter, then taught me inventory management, staff scheduling, financial planning. "You're not merely employed here," she said. "You're learning to build an empire." When Marcus was 8, he performed procedures on his stuffed animals with actual medical supplies he'd learned from online tutorials. At 11, he was studying my textbooks. At 17, Johns Hopkins Medical School accepted him through early admission. That same year, David Chen walked into Bennett's. He was revising Catherine's estate documents. She'd insisted on adding provisions annually since taking us in. Tall, reliable, with warm eyes and awful puns. He made me laugh for the first time in years. "Your son's extraordinary," he said over coffee that became dinner. "His grandmother deserves recognition." I wasn't referring to Catherine. He smiled. Though she mentioned something intriguing about her estate planning. Something about protecting the family you select. Even then, Catherine was preparing ahead. Everything shifted when the Riverside Chronicle ran the headline, "20-year-old surgeon becomes youngest division chief in state history." Marcus's photograph dominated half the front page. My son in surgical attire standing before the neurology wing he'd already transformed. The article mentioned his complete name. Dr. Marcus Morrison, MD, PhD. My maiden name. The name my parents thought they'd buried. Within hours the coverage spread. Child prodigy saves 4 lives in one shift. Generation Z surgeon revolutionizes brain surgery. The real-life Doogie Howser. My phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I nearly ignored the message. "Rachel," my mother's voice. After 20 years of silence. "We need to discuss our grandson." Our grandson. Not your son. Not Marcus. Our grandson. As though he was property they'd suddenly recalled misplacing. The messages began arriving, sent to my restaurant's business address. Professional. Frigid. "Dear Rachel, we trust this finds you well. Recent publicity has reached our attention regarding Marcus's remarkable accomplishments. As his grandparents, we believe it's appropriate to reconnect." They signed it from their business email. Morrison Enterprises, the corporation they'd protected by discarding me. David discovered me crying in my office, not from sadness but fury. "They want him now that he's accomplished," I said. 20 years of nothing and now they want to claim him. "What do you want? Make them vanish again." He held me close. "We can arrange that. But first, let me examine something in Catherine's documents." She mentioned provisions for precisely this scenario. That night, Marcus worked a 17-hour shift, saving 3 lives. He had no awareness his grandparents existed, much less that they were circling like predators who'd spotted treasure. They started subtly. A reservation at Bennett's under a false name, seated in my section, observing me work. I recognized my mother's emerald bracelet before her face. She'd aged terribly. Cosmetic procedures fighting a losing battle with resentment. "Good evening. I'm Rachel. We know precisely who you are." My father lowered his menu like a judgment. "We need to discuss Marcus. You need to leave." I didn't. Instead, packages arrived at the hospital. A luxury timepiece for Marcus, an expensive pen collection, a rare medical textbook worth thousands. Each card signed, "Your devoted grandparents." Marcus brought them home confused. "Mom, someone keeps sending expensive items. Should I worry?" "Return everything," I said. "All of it." David intercepted their next action, a formal letter demanding grandparent access rights. He actually laughed while reading it to me. "They cite established family connections," he said. "Connections they severed with this." He produced a photocopy, the document they'd signed 20 years ago, relinquishing all parental rights and obligations. "They didn't merely expel you, Rachel. They legally disowned you and any children you might have. But they persisted. They hired a private investigator who tracked Marcus's schedule. They contacted the hospital administration, introducing themselves as Dr. Morrison's grandparents, attempting invitations to fundraising events. The final transgression came when my mother approached Marcus directly at a cafe near the hospital. "You resemble your grandfather," she said, blocking his path. "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" "I'm your grandmother, dear. Your mother has kept us separated." But Marcus called me immediately. "Mom, some woman claiming to be my grandmother just confronted me. Should I contact security?" "Yes," I said. "Always." The call came at 3 a.m. because Jason always had terrible timing. "Rach, it's me. Please don't disconnect." 20 years and he still thought "it's me" would mean something. "What do you want, Jason?" "I saw the news about Marcus. He's incredible. Our son. Now he was our son. When I was 17 and terrified, Marcus was my problem. Now that he was saving lives and making headlines, Jason remembered his biological contribution. "He doesn't know you exist," I said. "Let's maintain that." "That's not fair. I was 19, Rach. My parents threatened to." "To what?" "Disown you. Expel you. Make you sleep in parks while pregnant." Silence. "That's what I thought. I'm divorced now. My business collapsed. I've lost everything." His voice broke. "I just want to know him. He's my blood. Blood. You blocked my number when I needed you most. Your parents contacted me. The admission hung between us like a noose. They believe if I'm involved, you'll be more receptive to reconciliation. They're offering financial assistance if I can persuade you." I disconnected. Then I called David. "They're coordinating," I told him. "My parents and Jason. They're actually planning this together." "Good," he said, which surprised me. "Conspiracy creates evidence. Forward me everything. Calls, messages, texts." Catherine was very specific about documentation. The following morning, Jason sent an extensive email about his paternal rights. He copied my parents. At the bottom, almost hidden in the signature, was the line confirming everything. "Consultant, Morrison Enterprises Family Relations." They'd actually hired him. My parents hired the man who abandoned me to manipulate me into allowing them near Marcus. Catherine had been correct about everything. Family isn't blood. It's choice. And some choices, once made, can't be reversed. Tuesday, 4 p.m. Marcus was 9 hours into complex pediatric brain surgery when my parents walked into Riverside General's executive lobby. "We're here to see our grandson, Dr. Morrison," my mother announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. "We're his grandparents, the Morrisons of Morrison Enterprises." The receptionist called security instead of Marcus, but my parents came prepared. "This is absurd," my father boomed, his voice echoing off marble walls. "We donate millions to this hospital. Our grandson is division chief. We demand to see him." Visitors stopped to stare. Physicians whispered. Someone began recording. My mother, ever the performer, produced a handkerchief. Not tissues, but an actual monogrammed handkerchief. 20 years we've been kept from him," she wailed. "We simply want to meet our only grandchild." Security arrived as I did, David beside me. "Ma'am, sir, Dr. Morrison is in surgery." "Then we'll wait," my father declared, planting himself on a leather seat like he owned it, which, given the Morrison Enterprises plaques on the walls, he probably thought he did. The security director looked at me. "Mrs. Chen, how would you like us to proceed?" My mother's tears stopped instantly. "Chen, you remarried. You gave our grandson another man's name." "He never had your name," I said quietly. "You ensured that when you signed him away." The gathering crowd murmured. My father's face turned crimson. "How dare you?" The surgical doors opened. Marcus emerged, still in scrubs. The infant he'd just saved being wheeled to recovery. He looked at the scene: security, strangers with phones, two well-dressed elderly people causing chaos. Then at me. "Are these the people who've been stalking me?" "Yes," I said. "Then I want them removed." He didn't even look at them. Now, my parents didn't leave. Instead, they called Channel 9 from the hospital parking area. Within an hour, news vehicles surrounded the main entrance. My mother had changed into a designer suit. She'd brought costume changes for her ambush. My father stood beside her, the grieving grandfather in his Harvard tie. "We're heartbroken," my mother told reporter Amanda Lee. 20 years ago, there was a misunderstanding. We were shocked about our teenage daughter's pregnancy. We responded poorly. But we've been attempting to reconnect to make amends, and we're being denied access to our only grandchild. She dabbed her eyes with that same monogrammed handkerchief, careful not to smudge her makeup. "Dr. Morrison is a medical pioneer," the reporter prompted. "You must be proud." "Incredibly proud," my father said, though he'd never witnessed Marcus save a life, comfort a patient, or stay awake for 32 hours to perfect a procedure. The Morrison family has always valued excellence. It's in his blood. In his blood. The blood they'd rejected when it was growing inside me. "What would you say to your daughter now?" Amanda asked. My mother looked directly at the camera. "Rachel, sweetheart, we forgive you. We just want our family reunited. Please don't punish Marcus for our mistakes." "They forgive me. They forgive me." The segment aired at 7. By 8, it had 60,000 views on their social media page, the one my mother maintained like a lifestyle platform. The comments flooded in. "Family is everything. Let them see their grandson. Why so cruel, Rachel?" David closed his laptop. "They just made a critical error. Going public. No. Claiming they forgive you. That's admission of wrongdoing. And we have the documents showing exactly what they did wrong." The hospital's chief administrator requested a meeting the following morning. "Rachel, this situation is becoming complicated," Dr. Palmer said, fidgeting with his expensive pen. "The Morrisons have donated $14 million over the years. The board is concerned." "Concerned about what?" "The optics. Perhaps one supervised meeting would resolve everything." "Would you meet with people who threw you away like trash?" He shifted uncomfortably. "It's not my decision to make, but Marcus's position." "Are you threatening my son's job?" No, just considering all angles." At Bennett's, customers suddenly had opinions. "Family is complicated," one regular told me while I refilled her coffee. "But forgiveness is divine, don't you think?" Even my staff whispered when they thought I couldn't hear. 20 years is a long time to hold a grudge. A grudge, like being disowned while pregnant, was equivalent to a forgotten birthday. Marcus came home exhausted, dark circles beneath his eyes. "Mom, I had 4 surgeries delayed today because reporters kept trying to access the surgical wing." "I'm sorry, baby. I'll fix this." "It's not your fault." He collapsed on the couch. "But maybe if we just met with them once." "No. I could tell them to leave us alone in person." "Marcus, they signed papers stating you don't exist to them legally." He was quiet for a moment. "Can I see these papers?" David had been waiting for this. He produced the folder he'd been carrying for days, ready for when Marcus would ask. "This is what they signed," David said. "The day they expelled your mother." Marcus read slowly, his surgeon's hands steady despite the words that should have shaken anyone. "November 18, 2004, Marcus read aloud. "We, Robert and Patricia Morrison, hereby relinquish all parental rights and responsibilities to Rachel Morrison and any children born or unborn." His voice stayed clinical, like he was reading a patient chart, but his knuckles were white. "They signed this while you were pregnant with me?" "Yes." "And this line, 'We acknowledge no financial, emotional, or legal obligations.' They wrote that." "Their attorney did. They signed it." He set the paper down carefully, the way he handled scalpels. "Tell me everything, Mom. From the beginning." So I did. The 15 minutes, the suitcase, the park bench, Jason vanishing. Everything I'd protected him from for 20 years spilled out in my kitchen while David held my hand. "Jason Blake is my biological father." "Yes." "The tech entrepreneur who just declared bankruptcy." He stared at me. "You knew." "I'm not stupid, Mom. Can use search engines." Jason Blake, Princeton graduate, dated Rachel Morrison in high school. He pulled out his phone, showing Jason's profile. "He's been viewing my page weekly for 7 months. My brilliant, brilliant boy. Why didn't you say anything?" "Because you didn't. I figured when you were ready, you'd tell me." He looked at the papers again. "So Grandma Catherine was your real grandmother, the only one who wanted you. She left me something, didn't she? In her estate." David nodded. "She left you everything, with conditions. Your biological grandparents can't touch a penny if they abandoned you." "How much?" 17 million plus the restaurants." Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. "They're fighting this hard for money they already lost." "They don't know they've lost it yet," David said. "But they're about to." They chose Romano's, the most pretentious restaurant in Riverside. All white linens and servers who judged your wine pronunciation. "Thank you for coming," my mother said, as if she'd won something by getting me there. My father pushed a leather portfolio across the table before our water arrived. "Let's skip the pleasantries." Inside, a contract. Morrison Enterprises letterhead, corporate seal, the works. 6 million, he said, placed in trust for Marcus immediately. Another 6 when he joins the board. All we ask is a public reconciliation. A family photograph for the announcement. You want to buy us. We want to invest in our legacy, my mother corrected, adjusting her pearls. Marcus is a Morrison. He should benefit from that name. The name you took from me. Which we're offering to restore. The IPO launches next quarter. Morrison Enterprises. 3 generations of excellence, tests well with focus groups. Focus groups. They'd focus grouped our reconciliation. And Jason. Yes. My father's jaw tightened. Mr. Blake is a separate matter. Is he? Because he told me you're paying him as a consultant. My mother's mask slipped for just a second. That's a misunderstanding. David had been quiet until now. Is it? Because we have emails suggesting otherwise. Something about a finder's fee. You've been monitoring our communications. My father stood. That's illegal. No. Jason forwarded them to Rachel. Copied accidentally. He's not very bright. They exchanged a look. The same one they'd shared when deciding my fate 20 years ago. The offer stands, my father said, tossing $400 bills on the table. But not indefinitely. As they left, my mother turned. That boy deserves to know his real family. He does, I said. That's why he'll never know you. David worked late that night, laptop open, Documents spread across our dining table like evidence at a crime scene, which essentially they were. Rachel, look at this. The email chain went back 4 months before the first news article about Marcus. My parents had been planning this. From robert.morrison@morrisonenterprises.com to jasonblake305@gmail.com. Subject: Consultation Agreement. Mr. Blake, per our discussion, you'll receive 12% of any assets recovered from the reconciliation with our daughter. Your role: establish paternal connection with MH, leverage for maternal cooperation. They're calling my son assets recovered, I said. Keep reading. Jason's response made me sick. Happy to help. Rachel always was emotional. If I push the right buttons about missed father-son moments, she'll cave. Suggest we coordinate pressure. You from grandparent angle, me from father's rights. 600,000 upfront seems reasonable for my involvement. He's selling access to Marcus, I whispered. Was, David corrected. This email chain is evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud and harassment. But there's more. He pulled up Jason's profile. 4 days ago he'd messaged Marcus directly. Son, I know your mother has poisoned you against me, but I'm your father. I deserve a chance. Your grandparents agree. We could do great things together. The Morrison medical legacy combined with Blake innovation. Think about your future. Marcus didn't tell me. Because Marcus reported him for harassment. The platform banned him. He also, David smiled, sent Jason's bankruptcy filing to Morrison Enterprises board. Turns out they don't like being associated with failed entrepreneurs who owe the IRS $2.3 million. They're still paying him. The board voted yesterday to terminate all consultant contracts. Your father doesn't know yet. Sometimes karma needs a good attorney to help it along. David unlocked Catherine's safe with a combination she'd made me memorize. January 18, 2005, the day Marcus was born. She updated this annually, he said, pulling out the leather-bound document. But this provision never changed. He flipped to page 9, paragraph 6, highlighted in yellow. Should any biological family member who previously abandoned, disowned, or rejected my chosen daughter, Rachel Morrison, or her son, Marcus Morrison, attempt to claim relationship or assets after achieving success or recognition, they shall be permanently barred from any inheritance, property, or financial benefit from my estate. She knew this would happen. She planned for it. Look. He pressed play on a tablet. Catherine's face filled the screen, recorded just months before her death. If you're watching this, Catherine said, her voice still strong despite the illness, then Robert and Patricia Morrison have crawled out from whatever rock they've been hiding under. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Morrison. Yes, I know exactly who you are. I hired investigators the day I met Rachel. I know about the 15 minutes, the suitcase, the family portrait you turned downward. My throat tightened. Even dying, she'd protected us. You threw away a treasure, Catherine continued. I found her. She became my daughter in every way that matters. Marcus became my grandson. And you're nothing. Signatures on paper that ensures you'll never hurt them again. The video. Catherine looked directly at the camera. Rachel, my darling, they'll come with money and promises. Don't believe them. You have everything, the restaurants, the investments, this house. 17 million, all in your name, protected in trust. They can't touch it. They can't touch you. Be free. The timestamp showed she'd recorded it the day before she died. This is the beautiful part, David said, pulling out another document. The original abandonment papers your parents signed. I'd seen copies before, but the original felt different, heavier. Their signatures bold and clear, like they were signing a business contract. They didn't just expel you, David explained. They legally emancipated you and simultaneously relinquished all parental rights. But here's what their attorney apparently didn't explain. Or maybe they didn't care to understand. He pointed to Clause 8. This relinquishment extends in perpetuity to any offspring born or unborn of the aforementioned minor. In perpetuity, forever. They can't claim grandparent rights because legally Marcus isn't their grandson. They made sure of that 20 years ago. But they're on television saying they're lying or they never read what they signed. Either way, this document is legally binding and irreversible. They could have contested it within the first year, but after that, he smiled. Ironclad. I thought about my father's Princeton law degree hanging in his office, my mother's insistence on reading every contract. They'd known. They'd wanted me gone so completely that they'd signed away their future too. There's one more thing, David said. If they continue harassment after being shown these documents, we can file for restraining orders, criminal harassment charges. They could face jail time. They'd never risk that. Their reputation. Exactly. So we give them one chance to walk away quietly. If they don't take it, we go public with everything. At the gala. 600 witnesses, media coverage, everything they care about. Reputation, image, legacy, destroyed by their own signatures. For the first time in weeks I smiled. Catherine really thought of everything. She loved you, David said simply. This was her way of proving it forever. The Riverside General Annual Gala was in 4 days. 600 guests, complete media coverage, and Marcus giving the keynote about family, legacy, and healing. We invite them, I said, holding the ivory embossed invitation. All 3 of them. David raised an eyebrow. You're sure? Catherine left us the weapons. Time to use them. I wrote each invitation by hand. Dear Mother and Father, please join us at the Riverside General Gala to receive your inheritance from the Catherine Bennett estate. Formal documentation will be provided. Rachel. Dear Jason, your presence is requested regarding Marcus's patrimony and your parental status. Legal clarification will be provided. Rachel Morrison Chen. They'll think they've won, David said, sealing the envelopes. Let them. Marcus reviewed his speech one more time. You want me to mention Grandma Catherine, but not them? Mention your real grandmother, the one who loved you. And when they stand up to claim credit, that's when David presents the documents. We'd reserved a table front and center for them. Table 1. Impossible to miss. Impossible to leave without everyone noticing. The hospital board will be there, David noted. Morrison Enterprises investors. Everyone they care about impressing. Good. I called the foundation coordinator. Yes, we're announcing the Catherine Bennett Foundation for Teen Mothers. $6 million initial funding. 12 medical school scholarships. Everything was in place. 20 years of pain transformed into purpose. What if they don't come? Marcus asked. They'll come. Their egos won't let them miss it. David pulled up the responses an hour later. All 3 had responded yes within minutes of receiving the invitations. They think they've won, he said. Perfect. The best defeats come when victory seems certain. The Riverside General Ballroom glittered with old money and new hope. Crystal chandeliers, white roses on every table, and my parents at table 1, holding court like royalty. My mother wore vintage Dior, the dress she'd saved for special victories. My father kept checking his expensive watch, probably calculating when to make their grand gesture. Jason sat beside them, fidgeting in a rented suit that didn't quite fit. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC announced, please welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Marcus Morrison. My son walked to the podium in scrubs. Not a tux, not a suit, but the uniform he'd earned saving lives. The audience murmured. My parents' smiles tightened. Good evening. I'm here to talk about family, Marcus began. Not the family you're born into, but the family that chooses you when you need them most. My mother preened, assuming he meant them. 20 years ago, a 17-year-old girl was thrown out of her home for getting pregnant. She slept in parks. She ate from vending machines. She had nothing except the life growing inside her. The room went silent. My father's hand froze on his champagne glass. Then Catherine Bennett found her. A widow with no obligation to help, no reason to care except that she understood what family really meant. Catherine became my grandmother. She gave my mother shelter, dignity, purpose. She gave me life. On the screen behind him, Catherine's photo appeared. 20 feet tall, smiling, radiant. Everything I am, Marcus continued, I owe to two women. My mother, Rachel Morrison Chen, who sacrificed everything for me. And my grandmother, Catherine Bennett, who proved that love isn't about blood. It's about showing up. My parents were no longer smiling. Tonight, I'm announcing the Catherine Bennett Foundation for Teen Mothers, Marcus said, his voice carrying across 600 silent guests. 6 million in initial funding. Housing, childcare, education, and hope for young mothers abandoned by their families. The screen changed. Catherine's video message began playing. Hello, my dear ones. Catherine's voice filled the ballroom. If you're watching this, then my grandson Marcus is doing exactly what I knew he would. Changing lives, healing hearts, being the man I always knew he'd become. My mother started to stand. My father grabbed her wrist, pulling her down. Family, Catherine continued, isn't about DNA or last names or inheritance. It's about presence. When Rachel needed family most, where were the Morrisons? When Marcus took his first steps, spoke his first words, performed his first surgery, where were they? The camera panned across the crowd. Every eye was on table one. I leave everything to my real family, Catherine said. To Rachel, my daughter by choice. To Marcus, my grandson by love. And to those who abandoned them, she looked directly into the camera. I leave you the truth about what you threw away. Marcus returned to the podium. I want to thank my family for being here tonight. Mom, he looked at me. And David, who showed me what a father really is. My mother shot to her feet. What about your grandparents? What about your blood? The entire ballroom turned to stare. No, Marcus said calmly into the microphone. You're strangers who share DNA. There's a difference. How dare you? My father started. Mr. Chen, Marcus said, I believe you have some documents to present. David stood, folder in hand, walking toward the podium with the measured steps of approaching justice. This is ridiculous, my father charged toward the stage. His face crimson with rage. We are his grandparents. We have rights. Security moved forward, but David raised a hand. Let them come. My mother grabbed the microphone from a nearby table. This is our grandson. They've poisoned him against us. We made one mistake 20 years ago. One mistake. I stood, my voice carrying without amplification. You gave me 15 minutes to pack. You turned my portrait downward. You signed papers disowning me and my unborn child. The crowd gasped. Phones appeared recording everything. That was different, my mother shrieked. You were a disgrace. Pregnant at 17. I was your daughter. Jason tried to slip toward the exit. 2 security guards blocked his path. Mr. Blake, David said into the podium microphone. Don't leave yet. This concerns you too. I'm not, Jason stammered. You're not what? The biological father who abandoned a pregnant 17-year-old. Or the consultant being paid by the Morrisons to manipulate their daughter. My father lunged for the podium. You can't prove. Actually, David smiled, clicking a remote. I can. The screen lit up with emails. The conspiracy laid bare in 40-foot letters for 600 witnesses to read. 12% of assets recovered, David read aloud. Push the right buttons about missed father-son moments. She always was emotional. My mother's Dior dress couldn't hide her shaking. My father's Princeton pin couldn't restore his dignity. Jason looked like he might vomit on his rented shoes. Shall we discuss, David continued, the legal documents you signed 20 years ago? The ones that permanently severed all rights to Rachel and her children. The ballroom held its breath. David clicked again. The abandonment document filled the screen, every word magnified, every signature clear as day. November 18, 2004, he read. We, Robert and Patricia Morrison, hereby relinquish all parental rights and responsibilities to Rachel Morrison and any children born or unborn. The document zoomed in on their signatures. Bold, deliberate, undeniable. This extends in perpetuity, David continued. Forever. Irreversible. You didn't just disown your pregnant daughter. You legally disowned every generation that would come from her. We didn't know, my mother started. You didn't know. Mr. Morrison, you have a Princeton law degree. You knew exactly what you were signing. My father's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. But that's not all, David said. Let's discuss what happens when you abandon someone, then try to claim their inheritance. The crowd leaned forward. Even the waitstaff had stopped to watch. 20 years ago you threw Rachel away. Catherine Bennett found her, loved her, raised her grandson as her own. And when Catherine died, she left very specific instructions about blood relatives who abandoned family. That money should be ours, my father shouted. We're the biological grandparents who signed away all rights. Look at the screen, Mr. Morrison. Look at your signature. That's your handwriting saying Marcus doesn't exist to you. Channel 9's camera captured everything. Amanda Lee held her microphone toward the stage, broadcasting live. Every person in this room, David said. Every camera, every phone, they're all witnessing the truth. You abandoned a pregnant teenager. You signed away your grandchild. And now you want to profit from his success. The disgust in the room was palpable. People actually turned their backs on table one. Now, David said, let's discuss Catherine Bennett's will. The screen changed to official probate documents complete with gold seals and notarizations. Article 9, Section 6. Any biological family member who previously abandoned, disowned, or rejected Rachel Morrison or Marcus Morrison shall be permanently excluded from all inheritance, property, or financial benefit from this estate. She can't do that, my mother screamed. She can, and she did. The estate is worth $17 million. The restaurants, the properties, the investments, all of it goes to Rachel and Marcus. You, Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, receive nothing. But more importantly, David clicked again, showing a video timestamp. Catherine left you a personal message. Catherine appeared on screen again, but this was different footage. She was looking directly at the camera, directly at my parents. Robert and Patricia Morrison. Catherine's voice rang out. I know you're watching this, probably in a room full of people you're trying to impress. But let them all hear this. You are the worst kind of cowards. You threw away a treasure because you feared judgment. I found that treasure. Polished it. I helped it shine. My mother collapsed into her chair. You had 15 minutes to pack your daughter's life, so I'm giving you the same. 15 minutes to leave this gala, leave this city, and leave Rachel and Marcus alone forever. Starting now. David looked at his watch. That's 9:02 p.m. At 9:17, if you're still here, I file the restraining orders, the criminal harassment charges. Everything. The ballroom was silent except for the ticking of the massive clock on the wall. 14 minutes, David announced. My parents looked at each other, then at the exits, then at the hundreds of phones recording their humiliation. Mr. Blake, David turned to Jason, who was trying to shrink into his rented tux. Let's discuss your consulting agreement. The emails returned to the screen. David read each one slowly, letting the words sink in. Rachel always was emotional. Push the right buttons. 600,000 up front seems reasonable for my involvement. That's taken out of context, Jason stammered. Is it? Let's see the context. David clicked through the entire chain. You approached the Morrisons. You offered to manipulate the mother of your child for money. You called your son an asset to be recovered. Marcus stepped back to the microphone. Mr. Blake, I want you to know something. I've known who you were since I was 16. I looked you up. I found your Princeton graduation photos, your wedding announcement, the birth announcements for your other children, the ones you didn't abandon. Jason's face went white. I watched you build your life while my mother built hers alone. I saw your startup announcements, your business features, your perfect family photos. And I felt nothing. You know why? Because David Chen taught me to throw a football. David came to every surgical observation. David is my father in every way that matters. But I'm your biological. You're a sperm donor who's now bankrupt and desperate enough to sell access to the son you never wanted. The IRS already knows about your bankruptcy fraud, by the way. We forwarded them your emails about hiding assets. Someone in the crowd laughed. Then another. Jason was surrounded by the sound of derision from people who'd once respected the Blake name. 13 minutes remaining, David announced. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, Mr. Blake. I suggest you leave now. My father stood, trying to salvage dignity from disaster. This isn't over. We'll sue. We'll. The ballroom doors opened. A process server walked in, followed by 2 police officers. Robert Morrison, Patricia Morrison, Jason Blake. The server held up official documents. You're being served with emergency restraining orders. He handed them each a packet while 600 people watched. These are temporary orders effective immediately. You are prohibited from coming within 700 feet of Rachel Chen, Marcus Morrison, or David Chen. No contact through any medium. No calls, texts, emails, or third-party messages. The hearing for permanent orders is in 3 weeks. You planned this, my mother hissed at me. No, I said, standing. You planned this 20 years ago when you signed those papers. I'm just finishing what you started. The officer stepped forward. Folks, you need to leave the premises now, or you're violating the order. This is assault, my father shouted. This is consequence, the officer said calmly. Something I understand you're not familiar with. You have 7 minutes before we arrest you for violation. My mother grabbed her designer bag like a life preserver. You'll regret this, Rachel. The only thing I regret, I said loud enough for everyone to hear, is spending 17 years thinking I needed your love. They walked toward the exit, Jason trailing behind them. At the door, my father turned one last time. That boy is our blood. Blood, Marcus called out. You bled my mother dry and left her for dead. Catherine gave her a transfusion of real love. That's the only blood that matters here. The doors closed behind them. The entire ballroom erupted in applause. The applause died down as Marcus returned to the podium, this time with me beside him. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, let me tell you what we're really here to celebrate. The screen showed a rendering of a building. The Catherine Bennett Center for Young Mothers. $6 million in initial funding. 12 full medical school scholarships for children of teen mothers. Housing for 25 families at a time. Childcare during classes, job training. Everything my mother needed 20 years ago and found in one extraordinary woman. I took the microphone. Every young mother who comes to us will get what I got from Catherine. Not judgment but support. Not shame but dignity. Not abandonment but family. The first scholarship recipient is here tonight, Marcus announced. Sophia Rodriguez, 17, graduating valedictorian while raising her son. Sophia, would you stand? A young woman rose, holding a baby, tears streaming down her face. The ovation was thunderous. Sophia will attend Yale pre-med this fall. Full ride with on-site childcare, I said, because that's what Catherine would have done. David joined us on stage. We're also announcing that Morrison Enterprises board has voted to redirect their annual charitable giving, the $14 million they donated to this hospital over the years. It's being matched by an anonymous donor for the Catherine Foundation. I knew that anonymous donor. It was the combined savings of every family Catherine had helped over the years, paying it forward. In 1 year, Marcus said, we'll have helped 60 young mothers. In 10 years, 600. In 20 years, when some other scared 17-year-old gets pregnant, she won't sleep in a park. She'll call us. The standing ovation lasted 7 minutes. But the sweetest sound was the silence from table 1, now empty forever. For weeks later, David showed me the business news. Morrison Enterprises stock dropped 35%, he said. The board called an emergency meeting. Your father was voted out as CEO. The scandal had spread beyond Riverside. Family values hypocrites ran in the Financial Times. The 15-minute parents trended on social media for days. Someone leaked the security footage of them being escorted out. It had 15 million views. They're selling the house, David continued, pulling up the real estate listing. The Westwood mansion, listed far below market value. They need the cash for legal fees. Their attorney had tried to contest the restraining orders. The judge not only upheld them but made them permanent after seeing the evidence. What about Jason? Worse. His ex-wife's attorney subpoenaed our emails. Turns out hiding money from bankruptcy court while owing $240,000 in child support is a federal crime. He's facing 4 years. Felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity, just nothing. They moved to Nevada, David added. Henderson. Your mother's brother took them in. They're living in his pool house. From a 9-bedroom mansion to a pool house. From society galas to exile. The best part. David smiled. Remember their church. The one where your father was a deacon. They were asked to find a new place to worship. Apparently, abandoning pregnant teenagers doesn't align with their values. Every institution they'd valued more than me had rejected them. Are you okay? David asked. I'm free, I said. For the first time in 20 years, I'm completely free. That night at dinner, Marcus said, the foundation received a donation today. Anonymous. $60,000. We all knew who it wasn't from. 7 months later, we gathered for our weekly dinner, the tradition Catherine started and we'd never stopped. Marcus carved the roast using the technique Catherine taught him when he was 13. So I saved 4 lives this week, he said casually, like he was discussing the weather. Show off, David teased, pouring wine from Catherine's collection. The youngest was 5 months old, Marcus continued. Her mother was 17. She reminded me of someone. He looked at me with those eyes that still saw wonder in the world despite everything. I told her about the foundation. She cried, Mom. She said she'd been sleeping in her car for 10 days. Not anymore, I said. She moves into the center tomorrow. This was our family. No DNA tests required, no blood certificates needed. Just presence, consistency, and choice. Catherine's portrait hung where the television used to be. We'd rather look at her than any screen. Fresh lilies sat beneath it, replaced weekly, her favorite. I'm getting married next month, I announced. David nearly dropped his wine. You're supposed to let me propose first. Catherine always said I should speak up for what I want. I pulled out the ring I'd bought him. So, David Chen, will you make this official? Marcus laughed. Really laughed the way he did as a child. Mom, you just proposed at dinner over pot roast. Catherine would approve, David said, sliding the ring on. Yes. Absolutely yes. We toasted with Catherine's crystal glasses, the ones she saved for celebrations. In the candlelight, I could almost see her smiling. This was family. Not perfect, not traditional, but real. Chosen. Permanent. And somewhere in Nevada, in a pool house, two strangers I once called parents were learning what I'd known for 20 years. Some choices can't be undone. But better choices, those can be made every single day. The wedding took place in Catherine's garden, the one she'd tended for 30 years. Marcus walked me down the aisle. Not because tradition demanded it, but because he wanted to. "You know," he whispered as we walked, "Grandma Catherine told me once that she prayed for us before we even existed. She said she asked for family, and the universe sent her the best kind." I looked at the 50 guests gathered. Every single person someone who'd chosen us, not someone obligated by blood. Sophia sat in the front row with her son. 3 other foundation mothers were there, their children playing quietly. David's parents, who'd welcomed me without hesitation. My staff from the restaurants, who'd become more than employees. "Do you ever wonder," Marcus asked, "what your life would have been like if they'd kept you?" I looked at David waiting at the altar, at Marcus beside me, at Catherine's portrait adorning the ceremony space. "Never," I said. "Not once." The ceremony was simple. We wrote our own vows. David promised to continue being the father Marcus deserved and the partner I needed. I promised to build a life worthy of Catherine's sacrifice. When the officiant said, "You may kiss," the entire garden erupted in cheers. At the reception, Marcus gave a toast. To Catherine Bennett, who taught us that family is a verb, not a noun. It's something you do, not something you are. He raised his glass. And to my parents, not the ones who gave me DNA, but the ones who gave me everything else. 2 years passed. The Catherine Bennett Center expanded to 3 locations. We'd helped 217 young mothers. 12 had graduated from medical school. 23 had started their own businesses. 8 had become teachers. All of them had become family. Marcus became chief of neurosurgery for the entire region at 23. His techniques were being taught in medical schools worldwide. He was writing his 2nd textbook. And me. I ran 4 restaurants, managed a $17 million foundation, and had finally learned to sleep without wondering if I was enough. One afternoon my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Rachel Morrison Chen. A woman's voice. Official. "Yes. This is Karen Willis from Silver Oaks Assisted Living in Henderson, Nevada. I'm calling about Patricia Morrison. She listed you as next of kin." My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I'm not her next of kin. She made that clear 23 years ago. I understand this is complicated, but she's had a stroke. She's asking for you. Is she dying? Not immediately, but her prognosis isn't good. Then she has time to think about the choices she made. Goodbye. Hung up. David looked at me from across our living room. "Your mother?" "Yes. Do you want to go?" Thought about it. Really thought about it. About forgiveness and closure and all those things people say you need. "No," I said. "I already have closure. Catherine gave it to me 23 years ago when she said everyone deserves a second chance, but she never said anything about third chances." David nodded. "Your call." "Always." The phone rang twice more that week. Different numbers. I didn't answer. Then a letter arrived. My father's handwriting, still precise after all these years. I burned it without opening it. Some conversations are already finished. Marcus found me in the garden, Catherine's garden, where I went when I needed to think. "The assisted living facility called me," he said, sitting beside me on the bench. "About Patricia Morrison." "I know. Do you want me to?" "No, baby. You don't owe her anything." "Neither do I." He was quiet for a moment. "I'm not angry at them." "Is that weird?" "No. You can't miss what you never had. Exactly. David's my dad. Catherine was my grandmother. You're my mom. That's my family tree. Complete. She's dying, Marcus. Everyone dies, Mom. But not everyone lives. He didn't. Not really. She existed in fear of what people thought. You lived. Despite everything, you really lived. Out of the mouths of 23-year-olds come the wisest words. 3 months later, David handed me an obituary from a Henderson newspaper. Patricia Morrison, 72, passed away peacefully at Silver Oaks Assisted Living. She is survived by her husband, Robert Morrison, and her brother, James Morrison. No services planned per her request. No mention of a daughter. No mention of a grandson. Even in death they maintain the lie. How do you feel? David asked. Grateful, I said. That Catherine found me before they destroyed me completely. I didn't attend any memorial. Neither did Marcus. We'd mourned that relationship 23 years ago. There was nothing left to grieve. A year later, Robert Morrison died of a heart attack. Alone in that pool house in Henderson. Jason Blake found him 3 days later. Apparently, they'd remained in contact, 2 failures commiserating. Jason sent me an email. I saw the subject line. Your father. I deleted it without reading. Marcus asked once if I ever regretted not reconciling. Regret requires believing I had a choice, I said. They made their choice in 2004. I just honored it. Today is Catherine's birthday. She would have been 93. We celebrate every year at the Foundation's main center, the one built where her favorite restaurant used to be. 250 people gathered. Every mother we'd helped, every child we'd supported, every life we'd touched because one woman decided that family was something you choose. Marcus brought his fiancée, Dr. Jennifer Wu, a pediatric oncologist he'd met during a consultation. She was brilliant, kind, and David and I loved her immediately. She understood that our family was built differently, and she wanted to be part of it. Grandma Catherine would have loved her, Marcus whispered to me as we watched Jennifer playing with the Foundation children. She already does, I said, glancing at Catherine's portrait on the wall. I can feel it. Sophia, our first scholarship recipient, was there with her son, now 4 years old. She'd just finished her residency. Dr. Rodriguez, I said, hugging her. How does it feel? Like coming home, she said. Like everything Catherine promised was real. At sunset, we released 250 lanterns, one for each family we'd helped. They rose into the sky, carrying wishes and gratitude and hope. Marcus stood to speak, something he did every year. Catherine Bennett saved my mother's life before I was born, he said. But she did more than that. She taught us that the strongest bonds aren't made of blood. They're made of choice, of showing up, of love that asks nothing in return. He looked directly at me. Mom, you were thrown away at 17. But you weren't garbage. You were a seed. And Catherine gave you soil and sunlight and room to grow. Now look at this garden you've grown. 250 families. Thousands of lives changed. All because one woman chose love over judgment. The crowd applauded, but I was looking at Catherine's portrait, remembering her last words to me before she died. Rachel, she'd whispered, her hand in mine, promise me you'll never let anyone make you feel worthless again. You are a treasure. You always were. I promise, I'd said through tears. And promise me you'll help others see their worth too. I promise. I'd kept both promises. As the lanterns disappeared into the night sky, David took my hand. Marcus and Jennifer stood beside us. Our family, built not by biology but by choice. She's proud of you, David said. I know. Somewhere in the darkness, I could almost hear Catherine's voice. Be free, my darling. Be free. And I was. Finally, completely, eternally free.